love to tell ourselves a comforting lie about billionaires. We say they got lucky, or they were just born with God-given talent. It makes us feel better about being average. But when you look at the raw data, that is total nonsense. Oprah was fired from her first job for being unfit for TV. Jay-Z was rejected by every single major record label in America. Howard Schultz was told no by investors 217 times. So how did a poor girl from Mississippi, a dealer from the Marcy Projects, and a kid from the Brooklyn slums actually build American empires? They didn't wait for permission, and they didn't get lucky. They weaponized 3 specific uncomfortable laws of power that most people are too scared to touch. Here are the dark mechanics of their rise, and how you can use them. Let's get one thing straight. We aren't talking about hustle culture today. We aren't talking about waking up at 4 a.m. or taking cold showers. We are talking about something much rarer: sovereignty. Most people, even successful people, are high-paid employees. They operate within a system someone else built. They play a game where someone else wrote the rules. The 3 titans we're breaking down today did something different. They didn't just win the game, they bought the stadium. They realized that talent is cheap. There are thousands of rappers better than Jay-Z. There are thousands of interviewers more polished than Oprah. But talent without leverage is just entertainment. To move from talented to titan, you need to understand the mechanics of control. You need to understand how to own the asset, not just the labor. And usually, that lesson starts with a brutal, humiliating failure. For our first titan, that failure happened in a newsroom in Baltimore, and it almost ended her career before it started. The year is 1977. Oprah Winfrey is 23 years old. She has just landed a dream job as a news anchor at WJZ-TV in Baltimore, and she is terrible at it. At least, that's what her producers think. She is too emotional. She gets too invested in the stories. She cries when reporting on tragedies. In the cold, objective world of 1970s news, this is a fatal flaw. After 7 months, the station fires her from the anchor chair. They tell her, to her face, that she is unfit for television news. It was a devastating blow, but it was also the moment the trapdoor opened, because the station didn't fire her completely. They demoted her to a daytime talk show called People Are Talking. It was a graveyard slot. Nobody cared about daytime TV. But the moment Oprah sat in that chair, something shifted. The flaw that got her fired, her raw, unfiltered emotion, became her superpower. She wasn't reading a teleprompter anymore. She was connecting. But here is where the story usually stops. People say, oh, she found her voice, and the rest is history. No, that is the fairy tale. The reality is much more calculated. Oprah didn't become a billionaire just by being empathetic. She became a billionaire by owning the empathy. Fast forward to 1988. Oprah is now a national sensation. Her show is generating millions, but she is still, technically, an employee. She works for the network. Her attorney, Jeff Jacobs, pulls her aside. He tells her the hard truth. You are making these guys rich, but you don't own the product. Most celebrities in this position would just ask for a raise. They would ask for a bigger dressing room. Oprah did something ruthless. She negotiated a deal that was unprecedented for a black woman in the 1980s. She told ABC and King World Productions that she wanted full ownership, not just of the show, but of the production, the studio, the tape library, everything. And she got it. She founded Harpo Productions and bought an 88,000 square foot facility in Chicago. Think about the leverage shift here. Before 1988, if the network fired her, she was gone. After 1988, she was the network. She controlled distribution. She controlled syndication rights. Roger Ebert predicted she would generate 40 times his revenue. He was right. By the time the show ended in 2011, she was earning $315 million a year. This brings us to the first law of power. Empathy is strategy. Oprah weaponized intimacy. She made the audience feel like they knew her. That created loyalty. And in business, loyalty is the only currency that matters. But while Oprah was building her empire in Chicago, another future titan was standing on a street corner in Brooklyn, and he was learning a very different lesson about ownership. If you walked through the Marcy Projects in the 1980s, you didn't see hope. You saw concrete, crack vials, and despair. This is where Shawn Carter, aka Jay-Z, grew up. By 13, he wasn't thinking about Billboard charts. He was selling drugs to survive. He saw his friend DeHaven take a bullet meant for him. He saw the brutality of the street economy up close. 13-year-old kids don't wake up and say, I want to sell drugs, he later said. It's about survival. But the streets taught him something school never could. They taught him about margins. They taught him about supply and demand, and most importantly, they taught him that if you don't own the product, you are expendable. In the mid-90s, Jay-Z tried to go legit. He shopped his demo tape to every major record label in New York: Def Jam, Columbia, Capitol. They all know. They told him he was too old. They said he had the wrong image. The gatekeeper slammed the door in his face. So, Jay-Z decided to build his own gate. In 1995, he co-founded Rockefeller Records with Damon Dash and Kareem "Biggs" Burke. They sold CDs out of the trunk of a car. They operated with the efficiency of a drug cartel. But the product was music. Because they started independent, they kept their equity. This is the key. Most artists sign a deal where they get a big cash advance, but the label owns their masters, the actual copyright to the recording. Jay-Z refused to play that game. His career became a masterclass in what he calls financial freedom. He famously rapped, "Financial freedom, my only hope. Fuck living rich and dying broke."
Financial freedom, my only hope. Fuck living rich and dying broke.
But the real heist happened in 2004. Jay-Z wanted his masters back from Def Jam, who had bought a piece of Rockefeller. So he made a move that looked insane to outsiders. He took a corporate job. He became the president of Def Jam. People thought he sold out. Why is the coolest rapper alive wearing a suit? He wasn't selling out. He was infiltrating. He used that position and the leverage of his presidency to negotiate the return of his master recordings. He called it the fight of my life.
For me, was the fight of my life.
By 2014, the rights reverted to him. Today, his music catalog alone generates nearly 1 billion streams a year, and every single penny goes to him. That is the second law of power. Financial freedom is mental freedom. Jay-Z understood that ownership gives you the power to say no. It gives you the power to be silent. Notice how you rarely see Jay-Z do interviews? He doesn't have to. He controls the narrative because he owns the assets. He leveraged his music to buy Douce Cognac. He leveraged his brand to buy into Uber early. He turned a rap career into a $2.5 billion holding company. He proved that you don't need the gatekeepers if you own the keys. But sometimes, ownership isn't enough. Sometimes you have a vision so radical that everyone tells you it's impossible. That is what happened to a young salesman named Howard Schultz. And he didn't just have to fight the industry. He had to fight the founders of his own company. Howard Schultz. Vision is resilience. Most people think Howard Schultz founded Starbucks. He didn't. He was just an employee. In 1982, Schultz was the director of marketing for a small coffee bean roaster in Seattle. The company, Starbucks, didn't sell drinks. They just sold bags of beans. A year later, Schultz took a trip to Milan, Italy, and he saw the future. He walked into the Italian espresso bars. He saw the steam, the noise, the community. People weren't just buying caffeine. They were talking. They were connecting. Schultz realized that America had no third place. We had home, the first place, and work, the second place. But we had nowhere to go in between.
I was captured emotionally by the Italian coffee bar, the sense of community, the third place between home and work, and I raced back to America thinking, this is what I'd like to try and do and transform the Italian coffee experience into the American society.
He rushed back to Seattle, bursting with excitement. He told the founders, "We have to do this. We have to serve espresso." And they told him, no. They said, "We are a retailer, not a restaurant." They told him Americans would never pay for fancy coffee. They rejected his vision completely. This is the moment most people quit.
To you, in 1987, and I said to you, I want to build a company with Italian saying words that no one could pronounce for $3 a cup of coffee. Would you invest?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
When your boss tells you your idea is stupid, you usually go back to your desk. Schultz quit his job. He decided to start his own coffee company, Il Giornale, but he had no money. His father was a truck driver who had been injured on the job and fired without benefits. Schultz grew up in the projects, watching the American dream fracture before his eyes. He had zero safety net, so he started pitching investors, and this is where the story gets brutal. He didn't pitch 10 people, he pitched 242 people, and 217 of them said no. Think about that number. 217 rejections. They told him his valuation was crazy. They told him coffee is a commodity, but he kept going. He eventually raised the money, opened his stores. And in 1987, he did the unthinkable. He bought Starbucks from the original founders. He raised $3.8 million with the help of Bill Gates Sr., a massive power player in Seattle, and took over the company that refused to listen to him. This brings us to the third law of power. Vision is resilience. Schultz understood that vision isn't just having a good idea. Vision is the ability to hold a picture in your head when everyone else sees a blank wall. He built Starbucks into a global giant not by selling coffee, but by selling the third place. And he protected that culture with his life. In 2008, when the company was failing, he returned as CEO. He closed 7,100 stores for 3 hours to retrain baristas on how to pour the perfect shot. It cost the company $6 million in one afternoon. Wall Street thought he was crazy, but Schultz knew that if the culture died, the company died. He proved that culture eats strategy for breakfast, and that the person with the most conviction usually wins. So, what connects these three titans? A poor girl from Mississippi, a dealer from Brooklyn, a salesman from public housing. On paper, they have nothing in common, but look closer. They all share the same dark mechanic. They refuse to accept the role society assigned to them. Oprah refused to be just a talent. She became the studio. Jay-Z refused to be just an artist. He became the business. Schultz refused to be just an employee. He became the owner. They didn't ask for permission to lead. They took it. They understood that in the game of power, nobody gives you leverage. You have to create it. You have to build your own gate. You have to own your own masters. You have to withstand the 217 rejections. The myth of luck is just a bedtime story we tell ourselves to avoid the work. The truth is much simpler and much darker. You can be the player, or you can be the owner. The choice is yours. But remember, the player gets paid, but the owner makes the rules.